Guys, do you have any questions regarding previous session? Okay, hope you are good. So in the last session we discussed about exception strategy, guys. Hope you guys started practicing on that. I'll just show you one more scenario. In the last session we discussed about one scenario that is about once we got the exception, how we'll catch that exception. So how we'll push that into the cache flag, right? Based on the exception, based on the caused by, and then accordingly we'll send back the response back to the error back to the user whoever requesting us, right? So whatever the format so they are expecting, so that we have to prepare it and then we have to send back it. But in this particular scenario, so we are sending back to the D queue, right? So we are pulling the data from the queue, then something gone wrong in the queue message, right? So we have to push back to the D queue. Why? Because somebody should correct that message and again they have to push it, right? Until unless that message gets success, we have to keep on so work on it, right? So that's what we need to do. Hope you guys are clear. Once the message reached to target system successfully, then we have to remove the message from the queue actually. Until unless we should not remove it, because if you remove it now, so we lost the information, we lost the message. That was the thing. So there is a one more scenario. I will try to quickly execute that one. So after that we'll see another topic. So I'll just quickly go through it in the last session what I was showing. There is a several flows. I was introducing how to communicate between the flows also I told, and then there is a one more concept like queuing mechanism also I introduced, guys. Please try to install that queuing mechanism and try to play accordingly. I shown you clearly how to start it, what was the uh, software it is. That is a Apache ActiveMQ. This is a version 5.15.3, and then this is a way to start it. Go to the Win64 because we are using Windows 64 most of the people nowadays. Go here and there is a Windows bash file. Just start it. It will get start like this. Okay, it should start, guys. Otherwise, you can't able to open the browser URL. If you observe clearly, it was showing the browser URL. There is a local host 8161. Okay, so it will get open. But so there is a difference in the broker URL and the browser URL, guys. Broker URL in the sense, if you go and check the connection establish configuration, connection establishment configuration is different, guys. Here the broker URL you can see here, we just pushed into the uh, external file properties, right? So we should not hard code anywhere here, so it should be configured in the external properties file. I will just show you the external properties file. Okay, so two things we can do, right? We can keep it in the mule app.properties file. If you keep it in the mule app.properties file, still it is a um, hard coded, right? So tomorrow if we deploy into some other environment, you have to change it. That's why in the previous session before that, I explained how to do that environment specific also. Hope you guys remember. And then this is a broker URL, guys. I'm trying to talk about this. If you see here, the 61616, that is a broker URL port number. The browser URL port number is different. You have to remember it. If you want to see that ActiveMQ in the browser, you have to open like this. In the configuration, if you want to connect with from the MuleSoft to the ActiveMQ, this is a broker URL. By default, admin is the username and password. Okay. Hope you guys are clear. So the next step is in the last session what we discussed.
Venkat, one doubt here.
Go ahead.
So here, that broker URL is there, right?
Yes.
So where we will get that? You told that ActiveMQ documentation it contains.
Yes.
So where we need to check that broker URL, ActiveMQ documentation. So is it will it be common for everyone? No,
Exactly.
right?
Yes. It will be common for everyone.
Oh, okay.
So these people provide clear documentation. You can go through it.
Yeah, okay.
Okay,
I'll go through it.
just go through it. So
Yeah, yeah, I'll go through it.
release
If
modes,
any doubts.
everything is there actually.
Okay. So I thought it is machine dependent, so I was
No, no, it's not.
okay.
Even this is not installable also, right? So this is just a configurable, just download and place into somewhere else. So if you want to really change it, you can change it. So you can go through that some inside of that some settings dot some XML files are there now. You can go through it. You can change it if you want. So right. So some under conf, some files are there. We can change it if you want to change the username and password. If you want to create one more user, then you can do it actually. But by default, I'm trying to say, if you won't change anything by default, admin's username and password. There is a broker URL and then browser URL there. If you change something else in the how to go and search in the some XML files, some configuration XML files, we can change it accordingly. It will react. Okay. Apart from that, everything is whatever I was explaining, same thing. Okay, this is a dependency we used it. They will clearly mention actually what dependency it is based on that. So we not had discussed about that what you called uh, Mavenized project. If you go for Mavenized project, you have to use this dependency. We'll discuss about that. As of now, we just download the jar file, we put it into the lib folder, and then keep it. Show that into the class path accordingly. We are working on it, right? So,
One more doubt, Venkat.
tell me.
Actually, you told like Mavenize when we Mavenize these projects,
Hmm.
it will download the dependencies automatically, and
Yes.
we can build the files. So in
Automatic.
local also, if we Mavenize,
Yeah, one second. I can correct that one. Automatically, in the sense, whatever the MuleSoft are required dependencies, it will download. Okay. Coming to the
okay, okay,
question, whatever the database connector and then whatever you are doing customizing code now, so that dependencies we have to keep it into the form.xml. That time only it can able to download
Mhm.
it. Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, okay, right. Yeah, right. So in local also, can we use pom.xml or it's like in real time? I'm just asking. So
No.
generally, people will download the jar files and do the development, or it's like in local also we can use pom.xml.
Local also we have to use. See, as of now we are using one or two dependencies. Like so, I am just
Okay,
connecting to the
okay,
ActiveMQ. I'm just connecting to the database. Only one or two required. Then I can keep it into the lib folder. I can go ahead, right? Suppose think like this.
okay,
So we have to use some. I'm using database. I'm using code. I'm using ActiveMQ, RabbitMQ. Multiple things are using. So then multiple dependencies are required, right? We should not keep
okay.
like this actually because your zip file size is increased. You are getting right. So
Yeah, yeah.
you are getting right. It will go via develop. I mean, in the development also it will go right. Whatever the jar files you put into the lib folder, it will go and deploy the jar file, including jar files also. That should not the case, right? So the size is more. Okay. So if you keep the form file, so whatever the jar files are there, na, it will download and put it into the local. We'll discuss that one. Okay. The zip
Oh,
file
yeah, sure,
size
sure. Yeah.
and so no need to download manually. Actually, it will take care.
Okay, okay. Got it.
Okay, and then come back to our session. So here, in the last session, we discussed about that. I mean, one scenario. So there is the two scenarios are here. How to mail execution. Here, based on this input, I intentionally raise an exception actually. If type business, I raised one exception, and then if type system, I raised another exception actually. I mean, type business, that time I'm sending intentionally wrong email ID. So, okay, if you remember, a wrong email ID I'm sending. That time, so we have a verification, right? So, email verification is there, validate. So, based on that, it will raise a response validation exception. Based on this response validation exception, it will go to the exception handler. Observe here, so this is the best coding practice actually. So you can write your flow here also actually. Error handling part you can write here also, right? There is a choice block you can drag and drop it. Under the choice block you can keep multiple cache blocks. But If you write in the error handling part, it looks clumsy actually. Your flow is there, your error handling flows is here. So that's why how people will follow. There is a reference global exception strategy. Means there is a reference exception strategy. Drag and drop that. It's like a flow reference, right? It's like a how we'll use the flow reference. So once cursor will come here, it will jump into that exception strategy, similar to flow reference, right? But here, what we call a reference exception strategy. So before that, we have to implement this global exception handler choice exception strategy. We have to implement it. So this is nothing but other exception XML file. So these are best standards, guys. Keep it into the outside. Okay, should not write inside of that somewhere else existing XML file. Take another configuration XML. So right click on your project, and take a Mule configuration file, separate configuration file. So create a name and push into the outside. Okay, so my global exceptions handler, total global exceptions handler is an outside actually. Outside in the sense separate XML file. I created a separate XML file. So I put all the possibility exceptions. So we handle data wave exception, non-retrievable, rollback exception strategy, default exceptions handler, right? So there's a many things we can implement, right? There is a timeout. Suppose we are in a middleware, right? So we have to talk with other systems, right? There is a REST APIs we have to call. There is a SOAP APIs we have to call it. I mean, we have to talk with excellent systems. Keep on, we have to talk with excellent systems. So there is a chance to get timeout, right? Suppose we'll have some 200 milliseconds or else 2 minutes. Generally, we'll keep it 2-3 seconds actually. Suppose I put a 30,000 milliseconds, right? Then 3 seconds. If response is not coming within that time, you have to give the timeout to the whoever requesting us, right? So that kind of timeouts. So we have to handle the timeouts, right? Timeout exception we have to handle it. So whatever the exception, so in our flow will trigger, so then we have to catch it accordingly. We have to implement that particular block, right? So that's why I put all the things in the separate exception handler, right? So apart from this, these are all customized exception strategies, right? So we've seen that whatever the system will create, right? We've seen already the RAML. Based on the RAML, it will generate some exception strategies, right? We discussed on. Guys, did we discuss about the RAML creation?
No, Venkat. No, Venkat. We haven't discussed that
Okay,
grammar one.
sorry, maybe other batch actually. So what this is our customized actually. So once we'll go through the RAML now. So RAML by default it will give some more exceptions like bad exception, if something input is wrong, it will give bad exception like 400 actually. Next one is 500 something server issue. So you are talking to some server, the server itself down, so then it will give 500. Like these default exceptions like 400, 500, and then 403 forbidden error, 401 authorization error. So these kind of errors it will give. Apart from that, these are all our customized actually. I'll see the YAML. So what are the default exceptions it will give? Okay. So that default exceptions also will push into the exception handler outside. So then we can merge all these things. We can implement it. So follow the
Get
same
one
rule.
more
Yeah.
doubt
Sure.
as we are in this window. So this data wave exception, non-retrievable business exception, these are all private flows or it's like private flows only, right? Because we don't have source.
This is not private flow.
Okay.
See, what is the difference between private flow and subflow and main flow? Private flow should have the source, but we won't keep any components in the source part. We just leave it as a blank. You're getting? This is nothing but a
Yeah.
catch block. This is nothing but a catch block. So it's not at all the flow also actually. It's a simple catch block. That's all.
Okay.
You're getting?
Simple catch.
Yes. See
Okay. Okay.
how it will look like private flow. There is a source part is there. We just ignore it. You're getting? It's like a main flow. We just ignore that source part. That is nothing but a private flow. There is no difference between private flow and main flow. But if only the small difference is we just ignore the source part. Remaining all as same. There is a independent exception handling, independent somebody should call again. Actually, only the difference between subflow and private flow is the independent error handling part only, right? But even if you calling wise, main flow should call to the subflow, main flow should call to the private flow. Okay, but this is not
Okay.
private flow actually. This is simple catch block. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Altogether, it is a subflow. Like global exception, handler choice, exception strategy is a subflow, right? This is also a catch block.
Which one? So this is the overall choice section. I will just show you in the backend example. First, we have to drag and drop the choice exception strategy. Okay, now. So whatever the name choice exception strategy give, right, that we have to consider to call that in the reference exception strategy. Under that we have a multiple catch blocks. This is one catch block. So when it will trigger exception caused by this scenario, wave execution exception. Whenever you see in the console that error now, so then we can see that I mean the cursor will come into the inside of that. This is another catch block. So this is another catch block rollback exception strategy. I'm not clear your question actually. So this is not flows. This is a simple catch block. You we can't call it as a subflow also because we did not call this. See, subflow in the sense what we can call anywhere else, right? Wherever required, I can call that subflow. Am I clear?
Yeah,
So this is
Venkat.
a simple catch block actually. So once something gone wrong in your flow, based on your error, so one of the catch block should satisfy. Okay, if suppose you got a new error, that's why I left a default exceptions handler here. You can see it. I just ignore that exception when execute when. I just ignore a blank, right? I just ignore as it is, right? So it's an optional actually. So that's why apart from that, whatever you handled, right? Apart from that, any other error will get, right? It will come to your default exception handler. You're getting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Venkat. I got it. Yeah.
Accordingly, it will this log will display. If you want to handle that one also, you can handle it, right? You can drag and drop one more cache block in future. So then we have to keep it like execute when. So then we have to take that particular cache block. I mean, particular exception message, exception class. We have to take it. Accordingly, we have to work on it. Okay. Hope you guys are clear. So and then, so I'll just quickly show you the second scenario. So it is in a running mode, guys. It's already deployed. So let's see. So the second scenario, I have to intentionally send a wrong info. So when it will go that second scenario, I'll just show you in the router. There's a router. Hope you practice about the router. The payload.type equal to system test database unavailable exception. Okay. So there's a purely mel expression. So I'm trying to check it in the payload.type, right? Equal to system. So go this way, right? And I want to route that into the database exception intentionally. Let's see, post into the message in the ActiveMQ. I'll just send here, change the queue name. What was the queue name? Queue. I'm just pasting here, send. So I got the message. So convert into the Java. You can see here. So we are converting it to the Java and then type is system. So this condition is satisfied. Then it will go to the test database unavailable exception. This is a subflow, right? So it will jump into the subflow. So here is the database connector. It should fail because intentionally I'm giving some wrong info database connection. Then it will come back. It will go to one of the catch block. You can see here. Started came. Okay, you can. It's came here, guys. Maybe it's not showing. So what it will happen here? Observe here. It came here where in the global exception strategy here is the thing, guys. There is a rollback exception strategy. Okay, in the rollback exception strategy, uh, we put a retrieving mechanism. Actually, there's a rollback. You can see here maximum redelivery attempts. Maximum redelivery attempts. Observe here. So compared to other exception scenario, I mean, in the other catch flag, you see only when condition. If you see the rollback mechanism, there is one more field called max redelivery attempts. That's a two I put it, right? So now we can see one attempt, right? So one time exception get it, right? So rollback case one, first time it was trying, right? Rollback mechanism. I got the exception, but still it was trying to connect once again actually. Why? Because why you are keeping here this is error actually. Why? Because keeping here sometimes the database is down, so we should not give back an error. We have to try one more attempt, right? Some network issues, these kind of issues will get, right? So that's why you have to give some retrieving mechanism. So this is the first attempt. I'm just giving the second attempt. Let's see. Right, again we got an error. Right, should go to the see rollback mechanism. Then it should try one more. First time, one more time. You can see the cursor clear moving, guys, how it was happening. Then it completely went out, guys, because so here based on this it will go here exception routes. It push into the DQ actually. I did not keep the debug here, so that's why it's not showing. So it went to the DLQ. There is one more queue we created. Whatever the error messages are there now, we are pushing into the DLQ actually. We can see same thing in the DLQ. So earlier DLQ contains one message. Let's say I'm just refreshing this. Now see, you can see what are the messages we tried, right? That came to the DLQ because it's a failure one. You can see the time also. Uh, you can see 6:35, 6:57, now 6:57, right? I'm just opening the message also. You can see the bottom. So there is a messages. You can see this failure message, right? So that is the thing, guys. If you have any questions, we'll discuss. Okay, hope you're clear. Okay, I will just introduce the ramble part, guys. How the default exceptions it will get created. We'll discuss that part also. So
Venkat,
yeah, go ahead.
before that, can you please a little bit share about main flow, subflow, and whatever Madhvi was mentioning, a third flow actually. So it's completely, yeah, main flow and subflow. I got clear from main flow. You are calling a subflow for exception handling purpose. But what was that third flow? I'm not
Private flow,
clear
no? We're
actually.
talking about.
Uh,
I
yeah,
will
yeah,
just quickly
yeah,
drag
that
and
one.
drop the thing. I'll just quickly drag and drop the things. I will show you guys. I'll just make show you the difference between all these things. How to mail exception. Here only I will drag and drop. I will show you the difference. You are clear about main flow and the subflow. So, but you have some questions.
Yeah, so main flow is a choice router, and that non-existent database or validate email payload, that's a subflow, right?
Exactly, exactly. So I'll
And
just
what's
drag
the
and drop the
private
flows.
flow?
I'll show you that. I'll show you that. I'll just drag and drop the flow,
Yeah.
guys. Here. I'll just see. This is the flow, right? If you see, the flow contains three parts. Right. So one is source part, another one is process part, another one is error handling part, right? Okay. You can say same thing here, right? So this is the source part, this is a process part, this is the error handling part. This is purely main flow. So coming to the subflow, I'm just dragging out the subflow. There is a subflow here. I'm just dragging out the subflow. So see the difference in subflow. So there is no source here. There is no error handling here, right? There is no independent error handling. Who will take care of the error handling part? Your main flow. Whoever calling your subflow, no? So they have to take care to handle the error, right? And then so somebody should call this action. So in the main flow, if you call it, how will call it? You have to keep the flow reference here. There is a component called flow reference. Search for a flow reference, drag and drop into your process. So we have to give the name of that. Uh, what was that? What was the name of that your subflow? No? So that name we have to mention it. What was that? How to mule exceptions subflow. That is my subflow name. I'll just search for a drop down. You can see here how to mule exceptions subflow. Right. I just refer to that subflow. Right. So once your cursor will come to here, so it will jump to here. That is a subflow. You are clear, right? Then I will drag and drop the private flow.
Yes.
Private flow is nothing but there is no private name called private flow, guys. The flow is nothing but a private flow here. I told you already. So see here. Now I drag and drop a private flow here. I drag and drop a private flow, right? So this is my private flow. How to mule exception flow is nothing but a private flow. You can see here there is a source is there is a process is there is error handling part is there. It's like a flow. It's like a flow. You can see here there is no difference between these two. But in your flow, in your main flow, I'll just drag and drop the connector. Some HTTP connector and drag and drop it. Sorry, not here. Upper one. Okay, now we can see the main flow contains source part. But if you see here, we'll just ignore it. We should not fill anything this. I'll just drag and drop some components into the private flow. I'll just keep a logo. Now see the difference. So the main flow contains source part and then process part and then error handling part. If you see here my private flow, there is no source here, but there is a process, there is error handling. We can drag and drop the things in error handling. And then in the subflow, so nothing is there in the only process part. So the difference is only error handling part, right? So the private flow, when you go for private flow, if you want independent error handling, so we should not depend on the main flow. If you want independent error handling, just drag and drop this private flow. Private flow is nothing but a main flow. There is no name called private flow. Just type for a flow, drag and drop it, just ignore your source. That's all. Right? Independent your process, whatever the logic you want, you can write it. And then error handling part you can handle here only. Something gone wrong in your logger, think like this. Something gone wrong in your logger. It's nothing but a process. It will go here and it will execute it. Suppose in the other case in the sense, something like in the subflow. Suppose something gone wrong in your logger here, where it will go? It should, whoever calling this now, it will go here and it will execute there actually, because there is no error handling part here. These are all the differences. You guys are clear? Still you have a question?
Yeah, got it. Thanks. Okay.
We can see in our flows actually, in our practices we'll get keep on these things you can observe. Okay guys, hope you guys are clear. I'm just quickly removing this thing. Don't get confused, nothing is there in the simple flow, some subflow, some proper flow. Okay. And the next thing is, so whatever you've done, right, this is a customized exception. So there is a system itself, it will give some exceptions. The RAM will take care some exceptions like bad request with the 400. like 500, 403 for a bid, and these kind of exceptions it will give. How system will generate, we'll see that part. So before going to that, so you people should have an account, guys. Okay, hope you create the account. So it will give 1 month trial version, so you can happily play with that any point cloud. So this is a meals of products, guys. Product, one of the product, anypoint dot mealsoft.com. Whatever this ID is anypoint studio, right? So but this is anypoint dot mealsoft.com. I'll just ping you in the chart. So please prepare the account. So based on that you can prepare, you can write RAML and all here. I'm just hitting the chart box. So I had an already account, guys, so that's why I'm trying to log in into the account. Also what you can do is, so don't have an account, so create it. There is a sign up here, you can see sign up. So please fill it, but give some genuine information, because if we get some OTPs, so forget password, you can play with that. So that's why give at least email ID, correct email ID and phone number. So you can give remaining other information, fake information you can give it. So once you create an account, so there is a sign in button, you can play with accordingly. So I'll just give meals of training. So this is my account. It's my trial account. 1 month it will valid. So you can see here in the first time it will ask like design and sandbox. I'll choose a sandbox. Sandbox is nothing but a environment, guys, right? It's nothing but environment. One of the instances, you can say. They'll give one of the instance for you. They will assign one instance for you. So this is for not only for designing the RAML, and then we can deploy the applications also. Many products are there in this, guys. So if you see inside anyplatform.com, so we have so these many products are there. So one is just now we are going to discuss about that creating a RAML. I will tell you what was the purpose of the RAML and all. So this is one location we have to create a RAML. Earlier they gave here, guys, API manager. Recently upgradation happened, so that time onwards they pushed that creating RAM into the design center. Earlier there is a API manager is here. The API manager we have to write it. And then apart from that, so there is one more product like runtime manager. So this is a deployment location, guys. We can deploy your applications into the once you're done in the site in your local, in your JT server, everything is working fine. No? So then we'll take the zip file, we can deploy into the cloud. This is the cloud. So that's where we need to deploy it. So this is the location, guys. The runtime manager we have to deploy here. We'll see that later. So apart from that, there is a these are all the products actually. API manager, access management, some permissions, some access policies and all will apply here, and then there is exchange specific to your organization. You can push that your RAML things, your products, your projects. You can push into the exchange. It will visibility only your organization. This is nothing but my organization. So it will be visible only in this HM, right? Whoever there under HM, they can see your samples, whatever you are done. If you push that exchange, so it's nothing but storage location. So this is this storage location. You can see. Okay, so before creating a RAML, right, we'll quickly see what was the use of the RAML. So why we need to create it. These are all things we'll discuss it, right? These are the RAMLs I created earlier. So we'll create a new one also. So before going to that, I'll just quickly overview, guys, what was the purpose of this, why we need to write this RAML. So RAML is nothing but REST API modern language, guys. That is the abbreviation of the RAML. Okay. So here, if you see, in this particular scenario, we have a JMS DQ in the source part, right? If you see other examples which we done earlier, so each and every POC have HTTP connector in the source part. So if you are keeping HTTP connector in the source part in the sun, so you are nothing but you are exposing as a REST API to outside world, right? Am I clear? So if you are keeping HTTP connector in your source part, so you are a middleware guy, so you are exposing as a REST API to outside. Somebody GUI, somebody people, you are trying to call your REST API, trying to consume our REST API, right? Then accordingly they will hit the request. So whatever you are expecting, they will hit the request. You will process that request. You will take that request. Then whatever the donkey kind of work in the middle, will do it. Some kind of enrichment, some kind of whatever the manipulation if you want according to your logic. We will do that. We will hit to the target system, right? That was our functionality in the middleware. So end of the day, we are exposing as a REST API, right? Suppose you done some flow. Suppose here I so I did some flow to talk to the external system, right? So I'll just quickly write this GUI. From the GUI, we'll get a request. So we are the middleware. So mail ESB. Right? From the mail ESB, we'll talk to some storage system, something like this. Then talking to some database. So we'll receive a request. So this GUI guy want to create some account in the database, right? We want to insert one record in the account table, think like this. So we are getting a payload, right? So suppose we are getting payload as an XML file we are getting. So Mule will receive that, right? So Mule will receive that. Mule will process that. Process in the sense how database guy was expecting. We need to map it, right? In the XML, the fields may be different, right? Values we have to construct. We have to whatever the database table contains, field names are different. Whatever this guy is sending, field names are different, right? As a middleware guy, we need to take the each and every field. We have to map it accordingly. We have to insert it, right? So that we have to do it. So before that, suppose how this guy know, how this GUI guy know, you are expecting an XML, right? Out of an XML, suppose think like this. There is a primary keys are there. Think like this, primary key, foreign key, right? So means what? You are expecting some mandatory fields in the input. Suppose he is not sending any primary key. He just send as a null value. Then what will you get, guys? End of the day, once you insert, once you hit to the database, then we'll get an error. Null constraint will get, right. So before going to that guy, why don't you validate it? And because we already aware it, the database guy is expecting these are all the mandatory fields, these are all the optional fields. He was updating us. So then, so in the Mule itself, you can restrict it. Right? So unnecessary transaction, right? Once this guy will hit to the MuleSoft will hit into the database, right? So this unnecessary transaction. Why don't you handle these are all the things in the middleware? So he will clearly tell us, boss, these are the mandatory fields, please validate it. So here we can validate in the Mule USB. You can validate it, boss, this was mandatory field. If we keep that mandatory field, now what it will happen? From the XML will read it. If the field is there or not, we'll look into it. If the field is not there, field is in the sense value. Value is not there, we'll just send back. From here itself, we'll send back to the GUI guy. Boss, this field we are expecting. This is a mandatory field. At any cost, we have to send it. Okay. Suppose if you don't have much information, think like this. GUI have a limited information. He is sending whatever he know, he is sending. So what that guy was saying, GUI guy, boss, I have this limited information. Based on that, can you talk to some REST API or SOAP API, some third party? So talk to the third party API based on this limited information, enrich the existing information. You can talk to other third party vendor, right? So fetch that information and enrich the existing thing and process it. That makes sense, right? Because we have a limited information. He is clearly saying from the mail ESB what we need to do. We have to talk to the REST API, whatever he is saying. The third party. Third party have more information about that particular user, particular account, right? So from the Mule USB, we'll talk to the third party with the limited information. We'll fetch whole information here. We'll merge that information, whatever you are getting from the third party and existing information. We'll merge it. Then we'll talk to the database that time. That time, so we are sending the information. We won't get any issue. We are clear. So these things, who will tell to the GUI guy? So one is One is just now we discussed about that validations you can do it. Validation in the sense, suppose how to target system explaining, target system expecting, right? I will give you one more scenario guys from the GUI. There is a Mule, so there is a thing like that CRM, like SFTC, Salesforce. We are trying to create an opportunity guys, that is an opti. While creating an opportunity, out of 50 fields, there is a 10 fields are mandatory, 40 fields are optional, right? So when GUI guy want to create when GUI guy want to create an opportunity, at any cost you have to send the 10 fields mandatory, right? Man, and then 40 fields are optional. You have to send the 10 fields. If the guy is not sending, then so end of the day this will get failed. It won't create an opportunity. So that's why here in the Mule USB we can handle the part, that validations part. That is one thing we can achieve through RAML. In the RAML, you can keep it mandatory or optional fields. That is one thing. That is one of the uses of the RAML. The second usage, hope you guys are clear, the purpose of the RAML here. The second usage, suppose here you are exposing as a REST API, right? You are expecting some query parameters, you are expecting some URI parameters, you are expecting some header. How this guy will know how you are expecting? What was the URL it is? Okay? What was the host name it is? What was the domain name? What was the port number? What was the path, the base path? These are all information how this guy will get to know. Until unless you will say you don't know anything, right? You have to share that information. Boss, this is the URL. This way I'm expecting, right? That whole information you have to document it, you have to send it, right? There's a success response, there's a failure response. If I got the success, this message I'm sharing to you. If I got failure, and this message you can share, I can share you. That whole information, you guys are clear, right? The failure information, success information, port number, host name, right? How I am expecting basically the response, the request, because the Mule is exposed as a REST API, right? The whole expectation you can keep it into the documentation. By default, we'll get a RAML documentation. That is nothing but a RAML console. The RAML console will give clear picture how we are expecting a request, how we are giving a response back. The sample response will put into the RAML, right? Accordingly, it will give the sample response, sample request, right? And then error messages and all, how we are expecting each parameter, how we are expecting header, if any, the whole information it will give that. So these are the two things we can achieve in the RAML, right? So hope you guys are clear. So before doing that, so actually, if you're aware about the Java Web Services concept, same thing here. Java Web Services. There is a REST and a SOAP. There's two types of web services in Java. So if you go for SOAP, I'll just quickly highlight this one. If you go for SOAP now, there is a file called WSDL guys, Web Service Description Language. Okay. Our next topic is this APIs only, I mean, web services only, REST and SOAP. So here, WSDL, the WSDL, whoever want to consume the SOAP API, SOAP services, the WSDL will give clear picture how the request is look like, how the response is look like, what are the operations I exposed, right? These are all the clear picture, mandatory fields, optional fields. So here, validation in the sense, not only mandatory and optional guys, there's some many things we can validate, like many things in the sense, suppose I'm expecting array object, right? In the input, I'm expecting array object, but user is sending single field, then we should restrict here, boss, I'm expecting array of values, but you are sending only single value, right? So, and then minimum occurrence, maximum occurrence. Suppose minimum occurrence, maximum occurrence in the sense, at least should be some value in the field, right? At least 0, at least empty string. That kind of minimum occurrence, maximum occurrence also we can do the validate in the RAM. Here also same thing. The visual says all these things, right? So the difference between REST and SOAP here, It's a purely URL based. There is no such kind of file in the REST actually, like visitor. The visitor saves all this information, so but in the REST there is no such file actually in the Java. Uh, so it's a purely URL based actually. So in the SOAP, the drawback is if something changes happen in the future, they have to share every time new digital action. Like this new digital file, they have to share it. Suppose now I did the code, I will share the new digital. After 6 months, some new field came into the opportunity. Then you have to share new digital to the client who you are requesting us. Right? The keep on changes happen. That's why people always prefer this REST APIs nowadays. It's a purely URL based. If there is no dependence in the code, you can change whatever you want in your code. You'll just share the URL, right? Whenever you call the URL, the changes reflect, right? So there is a difference here, REST and SOAP. Anyway, we'll see that later. So here, I'm just highlighting this file actually, digital file. So digital file says all this documentation, right? How we are expecting all, but in the rest that is not there. But in specific to Mule, we have a file called RAML, REST API Modern Language. We will implement all these parts. So based on that, it will be the validations, and then it will be the RAML console. So in the RAML console, we clearly expose that how we are expecting everything. So based on that, simply share this RAML console to the GUI guy. You don't need to tell you to that boss, I'm expecting like this, I'm expecting these are the mandatory fields. You don't need to tell them actually. Just simply prepare your RAML and share to this GUI guy. So GUI guy will hit the request, the RAML console. Then he'll clearly play with that actually, the mock request, mock responses. Okay. Hope you guys are clear. Any doubts on this RAML? What was the purpose of the RAML?
So some kind of it plays a role of message specification, the raml console.
What was that? I just lost your audio. What was that? What was that?
Yeah, is it kind of message specification?
Yes, you can say it's a payload. How it is look like? How the payload look like?
Yeah, that's what message specification. So it will be a mandatory fields and it will have this kind of data types and all
Exactly.
everything. Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. So that is the purpose of the RAML. Just try to create an account here. Once you create an account, so here is an option, guys. So once you log into that, so you can see many these kind of products here. Just click a design center first step. Once you log in successfully, there is a design center. Click the design center. Okay. Once you click the design center, so here is the way to create a specification, guys. There is an API specification. Here is an API specification. Once you click that API specification, it will ask the name of that actually. I'll just do a small, it's kind of a demo. So click here, it will create a separate API for you. Okay. So this is a design center. So here is the, we are implementing YAML, and then so there's a title, and the YAML version we are using is 1.0. There is a old version is, you can see here, this is an editor, clear editor, guys. So when you are trying to type something, it will show us suggestions. Okay. I'm just clicking here. See here. So it's clearly giving the suggestion. That was the advantage here. I'll just choose the base URL. If I want something trying to write it, so we can choose it accordingly. Right? That was the advantage. So same thing you can achieve in the Anypoint Studio, guys. Here also you can write it. There is no issue, right? If you don't want to write here RAML, you can write in Anypoint Studio also. But what we need to do, if you want to write RAML things in the Anypoint Studio, we have to add a separate plugin. So what was the plugin? I'll just show you. Search for a ramel here. See this. In my machine already installed the ramel API editor. So maybe in your machine it's not there. What you need to do, you know how to install that, right? How to add the plugin, you people are aware of. So simply search in the go to help and then search for install new software, and then here go to here, and then it's keep all available websites. And if you are not aware about the particular site, then keep all available websites and search for a ramel API editor. So click for a ramel simply. It will show us, guys. In my machine I already installed, maybe it won't show. Let's see. So it will come here, and accordingly you know that, right? So see here, it was showing here. So if you try to install, it will override, or else it will tell us clearly if you try to install, or else maybe it's a new version if you install. So select this and install. Click next, and then see hide items that already installed. If you don't want to choose, then it will hide it. Actually, it will on top of that it will install. So we have to install it, then we have to restart your Anypoint Studio. That time only it will get reflect, right? So that way how to work on it. So through Anypoint Studio, if you don't want to work on here, so but here suggestions won't come in the ramel editor in the Anypoint Studio. But if you are doing something wrong, no, it will tell us clearly. The red symbol will get it. We can create it. I mean, we can correct it. But here ramel files and all, we have to create it. Right click on the project. We have to take it as a file, as a take it as a name it as a file. I mean something. Give some file name, but extension should be ramel, RAM. Here by default it will create demo.raml, whatever the name I gave, no? It will create it. But here we have to create a manual. So where you need to create the file under research main API. There is a API folder is there, no? So here we have to create it. Okay, so we'll see tomorrow. So this how to do this here, then how to based on this how to create a project, then what are the basic exceptions we'll get. We'll see. So any questions as of now? Okay, hope you guys are clear. Yeah, go ahead. Any
Thank you.
questions? Yeah. Okay.
No, not
So
at all.
thank you. Thanks, guys. Bye. We'll meet tomorrow.